Okay, so we're back in the Gemara, Daf Yomi. This is Avodah Zarah, Daf 29. So at the end of 28 it says, Rav Yehuda says, with regard to one who suffers from the sting of a hornet or the prick of a thorn or an abscess or one whose eye pains him or one overcome by a fever, bathing in a bathhouse, and a life-threatening danger for all of these. Additionally, eating a radish is good for a fever, and eating beets is good for chills. But the reverse, eating radish when one has chills or beets when one has a fever poses a danger. Similarly, eating hot foods is good for the sting of a scorpion, but cold foods are good for a hornet sting. But the reverse poses a danger. Hot water is good for a thorn embedded in one's skin, and cold water is good for facial wounds. We're in 29 now. But the reverse presents a danger. Vinegar is good for one to consume after bloodletting, and eating small fish is good for one who has completed a fast. But the reverse is a danger. Eating cress and then undergoing bloodletting poses a danger. With regard to one who suffers from a fever and undergoes bloodletting, this poses a danger to his life. Similarly, one who suffers from pain of the eye and undergoes bloodletting endangers to his life. On the second day after eating fish, one may let blood, and on the second day after letting blood, one may eat fish. With regard to eating fish on the third day after letting blood, or letting blood on the third day after eating fish, both of these actions pose a danger. The Gemara presents a series of health-related statements. The sages taught one who lets blood may not eat the following foods, corresponding to the acronym Het Gimel Beit Shin. That is, he may consume neither milk, so halav, nor cheese, gavina, nor onions, batzalim, nor cress, shachalim. If he ate one of these, Abaye said he should bring a quarter log of vinegar and a quarter log of wine and mix them together and drink the mixture. And when he defecates, he should defecate only toward the east of the city, because the odor of the excrement after the treatment is offensive. Since the wind does not usually blow from the east, it is likely to spread the stench. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi says one may lift the unkali, unkali, on Shabbat. The Gemara asks, what is the unkali? Rabbi Abba said it is the edge of the ribs, so istumcha, near the heart, which sometimes bent inwards, in which case they must be filled and straightened to the proper position. The Gemara asks, what is the cure for one whose unkali has been bent? He should take cumin, caraway, mint, wormwood, satoria, and hyssop. The remedy is beneficial for several ailments. The Gemara presents each of these in turn. For curing the heart, the above combination should be taken with wine. And your mnemonic for this is the verse, found in the verse, Psalms 104:15, in wine that makes glad the heart of man. For curing an ailment that rises due to the wind, so the ruach, one drinks the mixture of water, and your mnemonic for this is the verse, in the spirit, or ruach of God, hovered over the face of the waters. Genesis 1, verse 2. For childbirth, lehuda, a woman in labor drinks the mixture with beer, so shichra, and your mnemonic for this is the verse, with her picture, v'chada, upon her shoulder, shichma. Genesis 24:15. Rav Acha, son of Rava, ground all of these together and took a handful of mixture and drank it. Rav Ashi ground each and every one of these herbs separately, and he took all that he could hold between his large finger and his small finger and drank it. Rav Papa said, I tried all of these remedies, and I was not healed until a certain Arab said to me, bring a new jug and fill it with water and place in it a ladle of honey that is suspended among the stars. That is, add the ladle at night, and drink it on the next day. So Rav Papa concludes, I did this and I was healed. The sages taught 6 items heal a person from his illness, and their cure is a permanent cure. And these are cabbage, beets, water in which dried chamomile was soaked, and the stomach contents of an animal, the womb of an animal, the lobe of the liver, and some say small fish are also included in this list. Moreover, eating small fish causes a person's entire body to flourish and to grow. 10 items return a sick person to his health, and his illness becomes even more severe than it originally was. And they are 10 items return a sick person to his illness. I might have read that wrong. And his illness becomes even more severe than it originally was. And they are one who eats ox meat, fat, roasted meat, bird meat, and a roasted egg and cress, and the act of shaving and bathing, and the consumption of cheese and liver. And some say nuts are also included in this list. And some say cucumbers are also included in this list. The school of Rabbi Ishmael taught, why are they called cucumbers or kishuin? Because they are as harmful or kashin to a person's entire body as swords. The Mishnah teaches, and one may not have his hair cut by Gentiles anywhere. The sages taught in Braita, a Jew who has his hair cut by a Gentile should observe the Gentile's actions in a mirror while he cuts his hair. And in the case of a Gentile who has his hair cut by a Jew, when the Jew reaches the Gentile's forelocks, he removes his hand and does not cut it, because it is associated with idol worship. The master said a Jew who has his hair cut by a Gentile should observe the Gentile's actions in a mirror. The Gemara asks, what are the circumstances of this case? If it is referring to a haircut performed in public domain, why do I need a mirror? After all, the Gentile will not harm a Jew in public. And if it occurs in a private domain, even if the Jew observes the Gentile's actions, what of it? How does the fact that the Jew is watching prevent the Gentile barber from harming him? The Gemara explains, actually, this is referring to a haircut in a private domain, but since there is a mirror in place, the Jew appears as an important person whom the Gentile will hesitate to attack. The Gemara relates a relevant incident. Rav Chana bar Bizna was having his hair cut by a Gentile in one of the side streets of Avodah. The barber said to him, Chana, your throat is appealing to the razor. Rav Chana bar Bizna said, I have this coming to me as I violated the ruling of Rabbi Meir, who stated that one may not have his hair cut by a Gentile in any location. The Gemara asks, and didn't Rav Huna bar Bizna violate the ruling of the rabbis as well? Say that when the rabbis stated that it is permitted to have one's hair cut by a Gentile, they were referring to a haircut performed in a public domain, but with regard to a haircut performed in a private domain, did they say it is permitted? Since the side streets of Avodah cannot be considered a public domain, evidently Rav Chana bar Bizna violated the ruling of the rabbis. The Gemara explains, in Rav Chana bar Bizna maintains, with regard to the side streets of Avodah, since many people are present there, they are similar to a public domain, and it would therefore be permitted to have one's hair cut there according to the opinion of the rabbis. The Braita states, and in a case of a Gentile who has his hair cut by a Jew, when the Jew reaches the Gentile's forelock, he removes his hand and does not cut it, because it is associated with idol worship. The Gemara asks, and how much space should the Jew leave around the forelock? So Rav Malkiah says that Rav Ada bar Ahava says 3 finger breadths in each and every direction. In addition to Rav Malkiah, whose ruling was just cited, there was another Amora known as Rav Malkiu. In order to avoid confusing the two, the Gemara records their respective rulings. So Rav Hanina, son of Rav Ika, says the statements concerning a skewer, maidservant, and follicles were recorded by Rav Malkiu. The rulings concerning a forelock, burnt ashes, and cheese were stated by Rav Malkiah. Rav Papa said a different opinion. Statements from the Mishnah and the Braita were issued by Rav Malkiah, whereas rulings of halacha that are not related to a Mishnah or Braita were taught by Rav Malkiu. And the mnemonic to remember this is, the Mishnah is a queen, or Malketa. The statements are Mishnah is a queen. The statements that are referring to a Mishnah were made by Rav Malkiah, whose name is similar to the Aramaic term for queen. The Gemara asks, what is the difference between the opinions of Rav Hanina and Rav Papa? The Gemara asks, there is a difference between them with regard to the halakha concerning maidservants. According to Rav Hanina, this halakha was stated by Rav Malkiu, whereas Rav Papa holds that it was taught by Rav Malkiah, since it is referring to a dispute in a Mishnah. Okay, so we're back to the new Mishnah here. So this Mishnah discusses the halakhic status of various items belonging to Gentiles. So these items that belong to Gentiles and are prohibited by prohibited to Jews, and the prohibition is that of an item from which deriving benefit is prohibited. Wine and vinegar belonging to Gentiles that was originally wine, in Hadriatic earthenware. Hadriatic earthenware, and hides with a tear opposite the heart. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says a hide is prohibited only when the tear around its heart is circular. But if it is elongated, it is permitted. The Gentiles will sacrifice a heart only when it has been removed by a circular laceration. Meat that enters the house of idol worship is permitted, and meat that exits the house is prohibited. Because it is considered as offerings to the dead, so idols to idols, this is the statement of Rabbi Akiva. And with regard to those going to a festival of idolatry, or a tarput, it is prohibited to engage in business with them. And with regard to those who are coming from it, it is permitted to engage in business with them. It is permitted. Wineskins and jugs belonging to Gentiles which have a Jew's wine contained in them are prohibited Jews, and their prohibition is that of an item from which derived benefit is prohibited. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir. And the rabbis say their prohibition is not that of an item from which deriving benefit is prohibited. Residual grape seeds and grape skins belonging to Gentiles, which are left behind after the grapes are crushed for wine, are prohibited, and their prohibition is that of an item from which deriving benefit is prohibited. So this is the statement of Rabbi Meir, and the rabbis say moist grape residues are prohibited, but dry residues are permitted. Fish stew. Where's I reading that? Fish stew and cheese of Beit Unyaki belonging to Gentiles are prohibited, and their prohibition is that of an item from which deriving benefit is prohibited. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir. The rabbis say their prohibition is not that of an item from which deriving benefit is prohibited. Rabbi Yehuda said, Rabbi Yishmael asked Rabbi Yehoshua a series of questions while they were traveling along the road. Rabbi Yishmael said to him, "For what reason did the sages prohibit the cheeses of Gentiles?" Rabbi Yehoshua said to him, "Because Gentiles curdle cheese with the stomach contents of an unslaughtered animal carcass. As the carcass of an unslaughtered animal is not kosher, the cheese that is curdled with it is likewise prohibited." And it's interesting, there is debate today about cheese, but the cheese that we have today is actually halakhically not exactly cheese. If you just go to the store and you buy mozzarella and stuff like that, I still say that, I still agree that it needs to be certified kosher, at least in the United States. I mean, in other countries, you don't have certifications like we do, and you just have to know, which brand and everything is good, but... so, a lot of stuff we have today is not even cheese because they don't even use, in some cases, they don't even use rennet. They just literally use other means, and sometimes artificial means to, I don't know what the term is, curdle or solidify the cheese. So continuing, in response, Rabbi Yishmael said to him, "But aren't the stomach contents of a burnt offering subject to more stringent prohibition than the stomach contents of an unslaughtered animal carcass? And yet they said a person who is open-minded with regard to what he eats may swallow the stomach contents of a burnt offering while they are raw." And the other sages did not agree with him. But the sages said one may not derive benefit from the stomach contents of a burnt offering ad initio, and if one did derive benefit from them, he is not liable for misusing consecrated property. According to both opinions, deriving benefit from the stomach contents of a burnt offering is not prohibited by Torah law. Since the halakha with regard to a burnt offering is more stringent than that of an animal carcass, why would deriving benefit from the carcass be prohibited while deriving benefit from the burnt offering is permitted? Rabbi Yehoshua said to Rabbi Yishmael, "The cheese of Gentiles is prohibited because they curdle it in the stomach contents of calves used for idol worship. Since it is prohibited to derive benefit from such calves, cheese curdled in their stomachs contents is also prohibited." So Rabbi Yishmael said to him, "If that is so, why didn't the sages prohibit deriving any benefit from the cheese instead of merely prohibiting its consumption?" Instead of answering Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Yehoshua diverted his attention to another matter and said to him, "Yishmael, how do you read the following verse in Shir HaShirim?" This is 1:2. Do you read it as, quote, "For your love is better than wine," or "For your love is better than wine"? So It's dodecha and dodeich. Dodeich. There we go. In the first version, which is the masculine form, would be a reference to God, whereas the second version in the feminine would be a reference to the Jewish people. Okay, Rabbi Yishmael said to him that it should be read in the feminine, so for your love, dodeich is better than wine. Rabbi Yehoshua said to him, I think that's supposed to be dodaich. I'm sorry. The matter is not so, as another verse teaches with regard to it. Your anointments, shemanecha, have a goodly fragrance. So this is Song of Songs 1:3. This phrase, which appears in the next verse, is written in the masculine form, and therefore is determined that the preceding verse can also be understood in the masculine form. So the Gemara says, from where do we derive that wine belonging to Gentiles is prohibited? So Rabbi Bar Avu says that the verse states, who did eat the fat of their offerings and drink the wine of their drink offering? Deuteronomy 32:38. This verse juxtaposes the fat of Gentile sacrifices to their wine. Just as deriving benefit from their offerings is prohibited, so too deriving benefit from their wine is prohibited. The Gemara asks, from where do we derive the prohibition with regard to an offering itself? It is derived from a verse as it is written, and they joined themselves unto Baal Peor and ate the offerings to the dead. Psalm 106:28. This verse teaches that just as deriving benefit from a corpse is prohibited, so too deriving benefit from an offering of idolatry is prohibited. The Gemara asking, from where do we derive the prohibition of a corpse itself? The Gemara answers, it is derived from a verbal analogy between the words there and there, employed with regard to the heifer whose neck is broken. To absolve a city from bearing responsibility for the death of a visitor, it is written here, and Miriam died there. Numbers 20, verse 1. And it is written there, quote, and the elders of that city shall bring down the heifer unto a rough valley, which may neither be plowed nor sown, and shall break the heifer's neck there in the valley. Deuteronomy 21, verse 4. Okay, just as there deriving benefit from the heifer is prohibited, so too here deriving benefit from a corpse is prohibited. And there, from where do we learn that deriving benefit from the heifer is prohibited? The sages said in the school of Rabbi Yonai, a term of atonement is written with regard to the heifer whose neck is broken, Deuteronomy 21, verse 8. Just as it is written with regard to a sacrificial animals, this teaches that deriving benefit from the heifer is prohibited, just as deriving benefit from the sacrificial animals is prohibited. So the Mishnah teaches, in vinegar belonging to Gentiles that was originally wine is prohibited. The Gemara asks, isn't this obvious? Just because the wine was soured, should its prohibition lapse? Rabbi Ashi said, this comes to teach us that our vinegar that is in a Gentile's possession does not require a seal within a seal. For it to remain permitted for consumption, rather one seal is sufficient to remain. Okay, Rav Ashi explains the reason for this leniency. If the concern is due to idolatrous libation, Gentiles do not offer libations of vinegar. And if it is due to the concern that the Gentile may secretly exchange his prohibited vinegar with the vinegar of a Jew, since there is one seal, the Gentile will not exert himself and forge a different seal in order to facilitate the exchange. So Rav Elia says, we learned that cooked wine belongs to Gentiles that was originally uncooked wine is prohibited. That's okay. We learned that cooked wine belonging to Gentiles that was originally uncooked wine is prohibited. The Gemara asks, again, isn't this obvious? Just because the wine was cooked, should its prohibition lapse? So Rav Ashi said, this comes to teach us that our crooked wine that is in the Gentile's possession does not require a seal within a seal. For it to remain prohibited for consumption. Rather, one seal is sufficient. Rav Ashi elaborates, if the concern is due to the idolatrous libation, Gentiles do not offer libations of cooked wine And if it is due to, and then that's the end of Daf 29. Thanks for watching.